We continue in our summary of the book Case Interview Secrets by Victor Cheng, and we'll be looking at Chapter 5, Why Case Interviews Exist. In summary, this chapter is trying to get you to understand why consulting firms do certain things during the recruitment process. Essentially, we want to know why is it that there is a case interview and why are the type of questions that are asked in the case interview asked, so that you can understand how best to approach these questions. There's something by Simon Sinek that says, I think it's a famous book, Start with Why. So essentially, we want to know why case interviews exist. And the first thing to keep in mind is that case interviews simulate on-the-job experience. Like I said in the previous video, the interviewer is essentially trying to identify how you, as a candidate, will perform if you were seated in front of a client. So they want to put you in such a position where you have a similar scenario as what you will see when you're engaging a client, and they want to study, one, how you will analyze the problem, how you relate with the client, and also how confident you are in presenting your solutions. So the first thing to keep in mind is that a case interview is trying to test you as though you already got the job. So that's a good perspective to keep in mind. And to also realize that if you hate case interviews, you will likely hate the job, because being a consultant is like going through a case interview every day of your career. Now, of course, this is very true. If you are able to perform well on a case interview and able to replicate that multiple times, you will likely be a great consultant. So that's the first thing to keep in mind, that the case interview is trying to put you in a job scenario situation. The second thing is that the client always asks estimation questions. So he gives an example of a client saying they want to get into the used car sales market, and then they ask, hey, do you have any idea how big this market is? And so you say, well, there are 350 million people in America, and from there you build your case. So clients always ask estimation questions, and they expect you to be able to guide them towards analyzing whatever situation they're in and essentially giving your best advice as a consultant whether they should go ahead or not. That's literally why they're paying you. So keep in mind that in a case interview, you will usually find a lot of estimation questions because clients always ask estimation questions. So what you should also keep in mind when answering a case interview question is think of yourself as though you were not being interviewed for a job, but rather you were sitting in front of a client. So how would you respond to that client? And that could help you in acing your interview. Another thing to keep in mind why a case interview is the way it is because as a consultant, you often have to prove yourself. And I know this sort of firsthand because I've worked with a couple of consultants, and I must be honest, at some point I felt, how does this consultant think he will help us? We are the ones who have the native knowledge. We have worked in this field day in, day out. What is this consultant here to bring to us, or what value are they here to offer? I'll admit that in the end, the consultant did in fact offer a lot of value. And while we had quite similar knowledge of the problem, the way it was a lady in this case, the way the lady analyzed the problem made me realize, oh, okay, this is why they pay her as a consultant. I was pretty impressed. So because you sometimes have to prove yourself as a consultant, a case interview will put you in that situation where you have to show what value you bring up front. So there's some ways that you can show your value to skeptical clients or people who feel, just like I did, that what value is this consultant supposed to bring me when I have so much proximity to the field or to the data compared to the consultant, which, if you think about it, could actually be a benefit for the consultant, because sometimes you need a pair of fresh eyes to see a problem and be able to find a solution to it. So some of the ways you can prove yourself is to ask clients thought-provoking questions they hadn't considered previously. Another way is to analyze the data to discover new insights that the client hadn't seen before, and also to always support your conclusions with data. And the more counterintuitive the conclusion is, the better for you, because if you think about it, if you came to tell a client something they already knew, then it's like, yeah, well, tell us something new. What's new? But if you're able to present, more importantly, a data-supported conclusion, it has to be so you don't just have to form something out of thin air because you're trying to sound smart. But if you're able to find some conclusion that the client likely didn't think about previously, and also something that is counterintuitive, then you usually be able to show some value up front. Another thing to keep in mind is your interpersonal skills. So even when relating with junior clients, administrative staff, etc., being rude or arrogant will put you on a very bad foot. So it's important to make sure that your interpersonal skills are top notch and you are relating pleasantly or at least professionally with everyone you meet, regardless of their position in the organization. Like I said before, always make sure you can support your conclusion with data. That will help you to leave a lasting impression and show your value upfront. The final point Victor is making in this chapter is that everything you do, you must show a level of confidence that is commensurate with being believable. So a case interview will usually assess your level of confidence while you solve a problem analytically. As a case example, if a client was to lay off a number of staff and you as a consultant came to say nervously that they should lay off 2,500 employees, because of your nervousness or your nerves, the client will likely second guess your recommendation because they don't just feel like this guy is sure about what he's saying. So in the end, you realize that confidence plays a big role in being able to recommend to your client and having them accept your recommendation, more so in you proving that you have value to offer your client. So this was chapter 5 of the Case Interview Secrets book. Tomorrow we'll look at chapter 6. Thanks for staying with me.